Let's move on now because we're joined by the brilliant Annunziata Rees-Mogg, my former colleague, of course, in the European Parliament, now Head of Communications for Popular Conservatism. Good afternoon, Annunziata. First of all...
Hi, Alex.
First of all, we were obviously a brilliant lot, all sitting there in the European Parliament, high calibre, knew what we were doing. In fact, I don't know if you remember, most of the time we were the only people in that blimmin' hemicycle. Most people don't understand that MEPs don't actually do their jobs at all, and it was always the Brexit Party sitting there making the loudest noise, and we were the ones who wanted to leave it. But talking about the calibre of politicians, what do you make of that lot? All dancing around for mental health or something or the other, when essentially we're in a part of a world war.
It just makes them look so unserious that I know this was for charity. I know it was about mental health. But really, there are planes in the sky. There are bombs dropping on British citizens. Their evacuation flight didn't even work. The Cypriot base has been hit. What are they doing? On Tuesday, they knocked off 3 hours early. Because the government didn't give out any time. Yesterday, they discussed defence for an hour. This is not a way to run a country. They need to get back and do their jobs. We need to have the defence investment plan that was promised in the autumn and still hasn't appeared. Pretty critical right now, I would have thought.
This is what's so staggering to me. You know, the fact that Rachel Rees went on and did the spring statement like it was business as usual. I'm like, you should have ripped that thing up and be saying, right, emergency funding to defence, emergency funding to repatriate Brits, emergency funding to pop up people because the fuel bills are going to soar. We're now going to, you know, urgently go for exploratory drilling in the North Sea. That's how much we're going to spend on that. Instead, she just went along like it was sort of, you know, nothing was happening. And where's Starmer? Where is he? He keeps saying Donald Trump doesn't have a plan. Well, it'd be great if we had one as well. Where are you, son?
He's waiting for Lord Hermer to tell him what his legal mates should think he should do. It is absolutely bereft of leadership at the moment, and it's the people suffering. I mean, I bought petrol yesterday, and it's already gone up 5p a litre. That could well head even further. We need to worry about what's happening to British people here and abroad, where there are undoubtedly, you know, still bombs falling out of the sky, and we need to protect them. We need to get them home. We need to make sure they're safe. We need to have the defence capability to make us all safe. And this government is dancing. It's a joke.
It's alarming. And talking about this government, Andy Burnham on the move again. He, of course, was blocked from standing in Gorton and Denton. He's sniffing up other seats. He knows that he's not out the game yet. But what is so concerning about this man is he's now talking about the need to have a coalition on the left, including the Green Party, to face down Reform UK. The Green Party, as far as I can see, are just useful idiots on behalf of people who, frankly, deeply scare me. People who I believe, at least part of them, have Islamist intent. Given that the left wing could well do this, and we've seen that happen in France, we've seen that happen in other parts of Europe where there's been rising populism and a populist party in a position to take control, that all the lunatics have got together and some of the less lunatic parties have allowed them, just so they've got the tyranny of numbers, to beat the party that probably has the best programme. With this in mind, and given how dangerous, quite frankly, the Green Party is, and what another 5 years of, and it won't be this sort of left-wing governance, it will be even more radical left-wing governance, quite what that would do to the country. Do we really need to be saying now to anybody on the right, look, the polls have been the same now for about 2 years. It's going to be reforms. It's going to be Nigel Farage. We've all got to get behind him because, quite frankly, the situation's too urgent.
Well, the latest polling seems to show that Reform is on 27%, the Tories are on 20%, the Greens on 19 in third, Labour down on 17, and the Lib Dems on 11. That gives the left and the right 47% each. It could be a very, very messy outcome. And I think all the parties will be looking at coalition options. Burnham is just saying the logical thing. Labour doesn't look like it's going to win any kind of majority, but it wants to keep power. It will do a deal with whoever it wants. It needs to cling on to power. I mean, I don't know if you remember when Gordon Brown in 2010 didn't move out of Downing Street, trying to discuss cooking up an SNP, Lib Dem mishmash to keep clinging on to power. And the left will do this. It's perfectly logical. But Burnham is desperate for power, and he wants to be Prime Minister. He's got this woman, what's her name, Marie Rimmer, who's supposedly going to stand down for him so he can get another seat if he's not blocked by the NEC again, which I suspect Keir would do. But it's this desperation for power, not what you can do to help the country. And Andy Burnham is to the left of Labour. The Greens are a long way to on the left side of Labour. And I think it would be really dangerous to let them have the levers of power as part of this coalition of socialist wannabes.
Yeah, I mean, this really, I agree with you entirely. This would be dangerous beyond belief. But the question is, back in 2019, you know, we lived through that era, and you started off the Brexit. Well, you were a Conservative, came to the Brexit Party, his name if he went back to the Conservatives. Let's let bygones be bygones. But in 2019, Nigel Farage did stand down his candidates in order to prevent crazy Corbyn becoming the Prime Minister. He said, look, you know, I've got to do this. The stakes are too high. The Conservatives are going to have a free run at this, because otherwise I could be the reason why this madman is now Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Will the Conservatives return that favour? Because you know them far better than I do. And my concern is this, that there is a sort of pride and obstinacy, a pig-headedness amongst sections of the Conservative Party who spent a long time lobbing mud and slinging insults at Nigel Farage. And there's still, I feel, a bit of a leftist flank within the Conservative Party. And the way the wind is blowing, it looks like if someone was going to have to do the decent thing and get out the fight so someone else could win, it would have to be the Conservatives doing that for reform. Do you think they would?
This is a very, very different position. And Nigel did stand down candidates in 2019, but only against sitting Tory MPs, and not against candidates, and actually they needed to win more seats. So it wasn't quite the incredible offer it might have at first looked. Also, it's a very, very different world. The Tories are still on 20%. That is not insignificant. There are areas of the country that are much stronger for Tories than they are for reform, and there's the reverse. And I think the two parties need to have a sensible conversation about how they can work together to maximise their impact in the areas where they are most successful.
Yeah, so my question to you is, do you think they would do that? Do you think the Conservatives would do that, though? I mean, look, I'm asking you because you know them better than I do, and you know, neither of us can speak on behalf of Nigel Farage, but, you know, we acknowledge he did something in 2019, and we know that Zia Youssef has sort of intimated that, you know, if it was 11th hour and a deal needed to be struck, then country comes first. My question is, do you think would Kemi Badenoch say, OK, yeah, this is the right thing to do?
There's not going to be a deal, and Nigel has been as vociferously anti-Tory as the Tories have been about being anti-reform. And there's not going to be a deal until there's a deal. But something is going to have to change. This fracturing of our politics means that deals have to come onto the table that we haven't realised we have to undertake yet. But something is going to happen, or there will be, very likely, a hard left coalition after the election, and the country is what will lose. The pride of Kemi Badenoch and of Nigel Farage is a hugely secondary matter to rescuing our country.
I agree. And you know what? I do hope and believe that nobody is that egomaniacal that they would allow the Green Party anywhere near the levers of power. So I do live in hope. Annunziata Rees-Mogg, it's lovely catching up with you, my darling. We should go for a drink soon. OK, right. Let's take a short break now. But I've